Another very beautiful moment with Eric was sometimes after supper, we would put his pajamas, and then we would sit and sing and pray. And frequently he'd come and sit on somebody's knees, and he would rest, or he would sleep, or he would discover tenderness. Tenderness is something very important. Remember our psychiatrist, another psychiatrist who was with us for 26 years, when I asked him, Patrick, for you, what is the sign of the maturity of a human being? Without an instant, he said, tenderness. And tenderness is not just the way we can touch your hand or put my arm around your shoulder. In a way that gives you the certitude that you are someone. And I'm not there to possess you. I'm not more important than you. I don't want to possess you. I've got nothing to... Tenderness is a meeting. To meet someone. To listen tenderly, without interrupt, to understand where your pain is. I'm always touched that the very first words of Jesus, risen from the dead, is not Alleluia, I've won. His very first words are, why you cry? Where is your wound? Where is your pain? Very first words of the risen Jesus. Where is your pain? To meet people at that level, which means somewhere that I have to change. And I must say that living or being with Pauline, or being with Raphael and Philippe, who the two I began to live with when I took them out from a very violent institution. It's true that living with them, they have changed me quite radically. Before I'd been sort of naval officer and that sort of stuff. Living with Raphael and Philippe, before I began last, I was a sort of serious guy. I'm not serious anymore, but sort of serious, and I'd been in the Navy and all that sort of stuff. And then I left the Navy to follow Jesus and prayer and that sort of stuff. And then I did a doctorate in philosophy and, all that sort of stuff. But living with Raphael and Philippe, I discovered that the most important thing was that I could become a child again and have fun, fool around, do the dishes together. They criticize me a lot because they think that I didn't wash them well, but that's, I won't go into that sort of thing. But I have fun together because that's what we all need, to be children who laugh and sing and celebrate and listen to. At Lourdes, your friend Bertrand, is it Bertrand? Brendan, sorry. And fool around. I mean, he knows how to fool around. Fool around a bit, because fundamentally, that's what we all are, our children. And the wonderful thing, in order to meet Pauline, and in order to meet Eric, is to have fun with him. Not to be too serious. Not always to be a pedagogue or a pedagogue or whatever it is, but to be together. Because that's what it's all about. To celebrate life together. And it's as we celebrate life together, somewhere it's the revelation that we're all the same. We are one together. We're all children of God together, that's all we are. I mean, we have different roles to play, we have different things to do, we have different gifts and all this. But essentially, it's to have fun together, to celebrate life, to give thanks, to give thanks. We have a community in Damascus, and just recently there was a meeting in Beirut, because our community in Damascus couldn't get to Beirut, the roads were open. And there was a meeting there with Widad, who's from my community. She's Iraqian, and she could share with them and listen to them. And the question came up, what is the mission of L'Arche in Damascus today? And they all wrote things on paper. Eventually it came down to two things. The first was never to be caught up in fear, but to celebrate life. That was super. I was going to speak to them over Skype. Skype, that means something. I haven't quite understood, but unfortunately a missile had hit the electricity center of Damascus, and so we could phone, but we couldn't Skype together. Celebrate life. Not to be sit there petrified, though there's every reason to be frightened, but celebrate. And to trust. The other thing that they decided was the mission of L'Arche was never to be a wall, but always a window. Never a wall that stops people coming in, but a window. They said the only problem is that windows can break. Yeah, to celebrate. As children of God, to celebrate. One of the most important moments, which I think is in L'Arche, is when we learn to wash each other's feet. We do obviously on Thursday, but at other moments, to wash each other's feet. I remember at the retreat we had given for people off the streets, there was Cyril, who was a big guy with a lot of anger inside of him because he didn't have a place to sleep in Paris that night. The way he washed my feet, his tenderness. And I washed the feet of Olivier. Tenderness. The icon of tenderness is obviously Mary with the child. The cheek of Jesus on her cheek on his cheek. Through the body, revealing that you are precious. Unfortunately, tenderness today has tendency to sexuality or stuff like that. Whereas through the body it's to reveal that you are important, you are precious, you have value. I don't possess you. We're together. Tenderness is a way of listening, a way of looking, a way of being, and revealing that you are precious. Because that is what a mother and a child does. It's revealing and giving security. The mother-child relationship gives security, but it's also revealing that you in your body, you are precious. Alas, we've moved into a world where bodiliness has become very quickly sexualized. So the whole real vision of what body is about, that you are your body and I am my body, and it's important. Humility, In a church that has been humiliated, our churches, all the churches have been humiliated. Our cultures have been humiliated. So much humiliation. And yet, humility can bring us to truthfulness. Humiliation can bring us to humility. Who am I? All I am is I belong to you, Jesus. Humility. Just truthfulness. That I am I and you are you. You're important. You're a child of God. You're a human person. You are precious. So to have the eyes of humility and to love people as Jesus loves them, because that's what it's all about. My commandment is that you love one another as I love you. So, to see people as Jesus sees them. It's about truthfulness. To be true. I won't go on, because if I go on with the chapter on humility and humiliation, we'll never get to the end. That'll be a catastrophe. But the second chapter is about conformity to conscience. Conformity to conscience. Beautiful text in the Council. The dignity of the human person is his individual conscience. And in that individual conscience, which is the secret sanctuary where God speaks to every person. Wow. Wow. Conscience. To do what is right. Not to be a success. We can try to be a success. But what is important is what is right. What is true. Individual conscience is something extraordinary. This capacity of the human person to sense what is right. For me, it's been a long story. I joined the Navy when I was 13. I was in Canada, 1942, and I heard about the Royal Naval College in Dartmouth. Something inside of me said, I must go. But that meant crossing the Atlantic, where one ship in 5 was sunk. We're in 1942. So I went to my father and I said to him, well, I said I wanted to go to England, join the Naval College. He did everything he could to dissuade me. But it ended with him saying, if that's what you want, then I trust you and you must do it. So off I went at the age of 13 in a troop ship, came to Liverpool and took a train down to London, When I look back, it was crazy. Completely nutty. Completely crazy. I'm glad that I wasn't around when my dad went and told my mother he'd said I could go. But anyway, that was not my problem. Conscience. It's not a question of discernment. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted. It was an intuition. And when I look back at that, because if I hadn't done that stupid thing, I wouldn't have started another stupid thing, which was love. It's, the conscience. To know what is right. When I read Mahatma Gandhi, or when I read Etty Hilson, to listen to that inner voice. Mahatma Gandhi is very strong about that. Even if everybody is against what I feel, and I know it's right, then I must do it. Mahatma Gandhi is one of these great men. To trust. To trust even if others are thinking, you're nuts. Maybe I am nuts, but that's what I want to do. It's true that I spoke to my father about it. I spoke, and also starting last, I had my spiritual father, So, and when I think about Lars, I took, Raphael and Philip from that institution. I was in a house that was dilapidated. There wasn't even a toilet there. I had to go into the garden. There was just a tap there, and trying to start something like that today, it was crazy. It was completely crazy. But because it was 1964, because there were needing people to do things like that at that period, because there was pressure from parents, because it was a time where there was a lot of money around, because it was when I think of that now, it was crazy. It was crazy. But I knew that I had to do it. And I did get confirmation from a spiritual father, from local authorities said you can go ahead, and They didn't know how crazy the whole thing was. But when I look back at that now, and we think there are 150 communities around the world and so on, in the same vision of being together, it was crazy. Conformity to conscience. To do what everybody else is doing. To break through, to do what is right in a world where there's so much conformity, so much normality. Hopefully, let rise up people who are a bit crazy. To move from the need to be a success and to be a success that everybody else wants. And yet, I remember being interviewed on television by somebody sort of serious. And he wanted me, what experience that I had in order to start Lash. And I didn't quite know what to say, but I said to him, "Are you married?" And he was a bit taken off back because he was questioning me. But it came down to, why did you get married to your wife? Was it because you said all the pros and all the cons, or did you know? We can make mistakes, but it's somewhere to become responsible of our conscience and to then go on to believe, because somewhere it's about freedom. Where is our freedom? The freedom to do what God wants. At one point Jesus says, and it's a text that was very important in churches many years ago. I stand and knock at the door. If someone hears my voice and opens the door, then I will enter and eat with that person, and that person will eat with me. Eddie Hilson somewhere says that in order to hear that inner voice, must spend at least half an hour a day in silence to see who really is where I'm being led to. To develop what is the most beautiful part of our being. The conscience to follow, because conscience is something about like a flower being attracted to the light. Conscience is somewhere to be moving to what is my fulfillment as a human being, my plenitude as a human being, to grow to a plenitude, what it means to be fully human and a fully disciple of Jesus. To grow. Do I have to look at my watch? Will you give me a little? 10 minutes? How am I going to get through the other? It's always my problem. I follow my conscience. Anyway, I'll have to jump because there are, how many chapters are there? I think 7 chapters. We're never going to make it. Anyway, this having been, I'll jump because one of the texts, one of the chapters is from power to authority. Power is telling people what to do. Authority is somewhere attracting them to go forward. The whole way of Jesus is through an attirance, to attract, to grow in love and in openness. It's an attraction. Conscience is about being attracted to the light and to truth and to what is beautiful and to a world where we can take our place to be instruments of peace in a world of war, where each of us, we can do something to be beautiful, to be a beautiful world, each one of us where we are, to do what we can do to be artisans of peace, to attract, to reveal to people you are more beautiful than you dare believe, and help them to discover their beauty and to open up, to do beautiful things. I remember a director of, who was the deputy director of an institution, and he explained to me that normally the director of the institution called all the leaders of different, and he would be there telling them what to do. And he would spend an hour telling the vision and what people should do. And so when the deputy director was there, and the director was no longer there, he'd sit around and say, "Now, tell me, where are your questions? Who's your need? What are your hopes?" People talking. Not telling people what to do. That doesn't mean to say that we're not there to announce a vision, yes. But then let's get together. What do you need to grow? What do you need to grow in freedom? That is, not to be caught up in a world where we have to be what everybody else wants us to be free. The truth will set us free. If you remain in my words, says Jesus, if you remain in my words, you'll be truly my disciple. And you'll really know the truth. And the truth will set you free. I love reading about people like Sophie Scholl. Sophie Scholl, does anyone know Sophie Scholl? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, thank you. Sophie Scholl was a young 22-year-old in Munich, 1944, 3. She started a little group with her brother Hans, and they had heard what was happening in Poland with the Gestapo and SS with Jews, and they saw also that the German army was going to collapse. So she started writing tracts and putting these tracts on benches in the park and in churches and so on, saying, that Hitler, it was a catastrophe. She started one day putting them into the University of Munich, and she was caught. And so they interrogated her, and so there was a trial. And why did you do this? Everybody's thinking like I am. Somebody has to talk about it someday. So she talked about it. And she was guillotined. What touched me was in the film on Sophie Scholl, her parents, and this is true, her parents came to meet she and her brother Hans. And the two parents said, "We are proud of you." And they left to be guillotined. I found that beautiful, the two parents. We are proud of you to have stood up and to say when so many people are frightened. So the question will always be to find the strength, to be free. To be free and to help people come to freedom. I like to say sometimes that the role of authority is to help people come to freedom.